Hey everybody, Katie here. This episode was recorded over Zoom, so if it sounds a little bit different, that's what's going on, but let's jump right into the episode.
Coming to you from the Strings and Things studio in Ventura, California. This is the Strings Unraveled Book Club. Welcome.
Welcome.
The book we've done this month is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern.
A physical book. Wow. What's that like?
I love this book. I read it like spotty to pop into it because you can tell it's in like very good condition still. Books that I actually read get well abused. Someone lent me a book and she's like, I'm so sorry, the corner is bent. And she already considered the book ruined by the other person who borrowed it. So I'm like, phew. I was another one. I lent her The Sea Women, and I had only like popped in and out of that book too, so it was in very good condition as well. I'm like, I'm not that fussy, so don't worry.
Yeah, most of my books are all bent and the spine is cracked. And
I mean, I do try to care for my books, but you gotta show them. I don't know, show the love of use, or whatever.
sure.
So I really enjoyed this book. The summary is as follows. The circus arrives without warning. No announcements proceed. It is simply there when yesterday it was not. Within the black and white striped canvas tents is an utterly unique experience full of breathtaking amazements. It is called Le Cirque de Rêve, and it is only open at night. But behind the scenes, a fierce competition is underway, a duel between two young magicians, Celia and Marco, who have been trained since childhood expressly for this purpose for their mercurial instructors. Unbeknownst to them, this is a game in which only one can be left standing, and the circus is but the stage for a remarkable battle of imagination and will. Despite themselves, however, Celia and Marco tumble headfirst into love, a deep, magical love that makes the lights flicker and the room grow warm wherever they so much as brush hands.
Don't we always feel that way when we're in love?
True love or not, the game must play out and the fates of everyone involved. From the cast of the extraordinary circus performers to the patrons, hang in the balance, suspended as precariously as the daring acrobats overhead. Written in rich, seductive prose, this spell-casting novel is a feast for the senses and the heart. I agree with all of that.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I have a confession to make in that I'm the loser this episode who didn't read the book. So I'm really sorry. There were a lot of things going on in December and I like completely lost track of the months. And then, I had 13 hours of book to listen to and I couldn't do it. So I'm going to act as moderator this week.
Okay.
I'll
ask questions.
1.6 speed, because I wanted to re-listen to it because on the first go I knew I had missed things.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that there are not only two timelines going, I think it's three timelines going. What do you think?
I can see the circus one.
Circus.
There's the one with Bailey.
Yep.
What do you think the third one is?
The third one is present time.
Oh yeah.
At the,
I don't know. Isn't Bailey in present time?
No, Bailey's in 1902.
Oh, he's in and out. I see what you mean. He is in a timeline.
Yeah.
Just not I could see that.
The book opens on 1873 with a 5-year-old Celia. And then it goes through Celia and Marco's upbringing and formation, and then into the circus's formation and operation. And then there's Bailey, who pops in, I can't remember if he starts in 1902. That's where the book was helpful because that's what I knew I was missing, is I didn't understand there were two timelines for like a long time.
Sometimes that's the problem with books like that switch back and forth is you don't exactly realize what's going on at the beginning, and then you're kind of confused until you catch up with yourself.
I'm a linear thinker. I have to think. I don't mind multiple timelines. I just have to stop and think of, wait a minute, where am I? When am I? Am I now? Am I then? When am I in the story? And that it sometimes I don't like to have to work that much. I didn't mind it in this one though, because there's a lot that happens in each section.
It's a buyer beware of the audiobook in this scenario, because she gives us the dates as she moves through the timelines, except for my accusation that there's a present timeline. All the points of view that are second person, I think are the current timeline.
Unfortunately, though, when they're giving me the times and dates, I completely ignored that part and didn't really pay attention, because it's just like when you have to listen to a history, when you're reading a history book and you had to memorize the dates and that things happened. And I don't do well with chronological date. Just tell me it's now or it's then. I don't care exactly when.
I have a problem with that too when I'm listening to an audiobook. Is at the beginning of the chapter they'll say a date and time and I just totally am spaced out, and then I'm like, wait, what year is it? What month is it? I don't know.
Was that important?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that important? I don't know.
That's what really prompted me to go back and listen a second time. And now that I have like hindsight and I'm paying attention to the dates now, it's all so much clearer, and like what she crafted and wove together is a lot clearer, because it's very intentional for this author to know, for us to know that she's moving through the timelines, I think.
So one of the questions says, the narrative follows a non-linear sequence, shifting at times from present to past. How effective is this method in revealing conflict in the novel?
Conflict.
I do think also it's important to note that time does not flow at the same rate throughout this novel. You are going in backward and forward, but time does not, within the realm of the circus itself, time does not flow in the same rate that it does outside of the circus.
It flows in the same rate. It's the people aren't aging. They're like in a protective bubble.
They are, but that's what I mean. Their life does not, their day-to-day does not, I think, is slowed.
I don't think so.
It's just the aging process that's slowed?
Yeah,
but I still think that's still time passing.
But they
might bodily passing. What?
They still live the night at the same rate as the people who are coming to the circus. Like
an hour is an hour, but they're just not getting any older.
They're not aging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not aging, they're not getting sick, and they're not getting pregnant. The only children are Poppet and Widget, who are twins who are born on the day the bonfire is ignited, which is
an interesting point. That how could they even grow in the womb and be born?
That's what's confusing to me, because they're the only ones who age. And I'm trying to, on the second listen, because I'm in the middle of that one, I'm trying to understand, like, why can they grow in age at a normal rate? Because they are the age the chronological age since they're.
You're right. They grow at the same rate that Bailey does, even though he's only occasionally at the circus.
I feel like I've experienced other narrative works, and I can't think of one right now, like a movie or a book or something, where like children will grow up into a certain point and then they stop aging and then they're stuck at that. But I don't know what it is, but it seems familiar to me.
That's what I'm wondering about, like, her intention is if she continued on with this story, which, I mean, I don't know why she would, because she wraps it up with a pretty tidy bow. But is that the fate, as the reader, is that the fate of Bailey and of the twins, that they're gonna just get to adulthood? And another thought I was having is like, well, maybe not. I was just having this thought this morning that Celia and Marco are going to be like very contemporary to the twins and Bailey at the point when Bailey joins the circus.
One of the questions that I'm seeing, which we might have already just answered by going through this, but preemptively, it says, what role does time play in the novel? From Frederick Thiessen's clock to the delayed aging of the circus developers to the birth of the twins, is time manipulated or fated at the circus?
Oh, gosh.
I think it's both.
Well, I think the clock is a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the circus definitely has its own rhythm, so I don't think you were wrong in that, Karen.
Okay.
But clock is the heartbeat of the circus.
The clock is the clock is definitely an important part. It's just like the fire helps manipulate the conditions of the people who are part of the circus. I think the clock is kind of like what helps control the circus. Although who decides where who decides where and when the schedule of the circus? I don't know. Is that Celia and Marco that I don't think they're really aware of, like, why a circus goes to a certain place or when.
I guess that kind of is the point of the question is somebody manipulating it, or is it fate? Like, is that just...
It's hard to tell because there is a manipulator in the story. There's Celia's father.
Mhm.
But isn't Prospero also part of that, or no?
No, Prospero. So he's trying to do that binding spell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not a binding spell. It's he wants to be ethereal, I guess, or ephemeral, like not substantial, right? He wants to be able to move.
He's a victim of his own genius. I think he did a spell and it would work too well and it backfired and he got stuck.
The way that Celia describes it, I think, is very good. Of she talks about when she's trying to explain what happened to Marco. It's like if you broke the glass that holds the wine in the middle of the ocean, the wine still exists, but now it's dispersed throughout the entire ocean and he can't come back together again in any substantial way. So by not having bound himself to a place, he's these loose particles that he has to work very hard to come together again. But when he does come together, like, bad things happen. I don't understand the motivation of murdering Herr Thiessen. I think that he killed Tara, but I'm not sure.
I totally think Tara was murdered because I think that she started questioning. As long as you went along and were willing to be used however the game makers wanted you to be used, you were fine. But I think she questioned
the game maker, Prospero created, planted the seed of the circus in Chandresh. And then disappeared himself. And then Celia does her contributions and Marco does his contributions, but no one's exactly telling either of them. Those are their inventions.
True. And then don't forget you've got Tsukiko in the background who gives a bigger perspective that this game is a whole lot bigger than anybody realizes because she's already played in a form. Not the circus. Hers was not a circus, but she was part of the game, the previous game.
Well, at least in their game that Tsukiko was the winner of, it was only the fates of her and the other wizard.
Yeah.
This is so selfishly created.
Oh yeah, because the two game masters, the ones who put it Prospero and what's his name? AH or Alexander.
Man in Gray.
The man in gray. Yeah. They were so busy trying to one up each other. It was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I know that they kept saying, when is this over? When is this over? And I kept thinking, wow, this game is playing it's a long game. But
I think I understood the stakes from the beginning.
I know it'd be like a fight to the death kind of thing, but I just didn't think it would take so long.
Well, it all felt, I don't know why it is such a long book. But I was trying to put my finger on that as I listened again, because it's like, okay, now I see where Bailey's day is going and his experience that leads him into the circus. And Celia and Marco are going to have these plot points. Why am I only halfway through the book in 7 hours?
I think I
can't believe any part to cut.
No, I love when even though it wasn't part of the plot, but when they revealed different tents, to me it was a very Alice in Wonderland feel. you open me, drink me, go into this tent and experience. It wasn't like a circus with animals. It was basically like a small city of tents, and each tent gave you a different experience.
That would be
And
a
then,
really
and then
amazing.
can't you feel sorry for the poor fortune teller girlfriend who gets strung along?
I feel medium about her. Like I like Isabel. Everybody loves Isabel too. Like even though there's this love triangle between Isabel and Marco and Celia. Um, and Celia's the only one who doesn't realize she's in a triangle.
Right.
um,
Isabel realizes it, but and she
her though.
Celia's her rival, love rival, but it doesn't matter because she really likes Celia.
And,
She looks after her.
And Celia in turn after all of them. So that's a little like I think that Isabel was not as deeply invested in Marco as she claims either, though. Even
Oh, okay.
her because in a sense he's her rebound because she escaped. Well, maybe not. No, because she wasn't in love with the marriage. That was an arranged marriage.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that part.
I have mixed feelings about Isabel. I feel bad for her because it's like, wise up, girlfriend.
But she does it to herself.
Yeah.
And she's an important part of the circus.
Yeah.
Some things, yeah.
This question I was just reading through says, Isabel is a silent yet integral partner in both the circus and the competition. She is an ally in Tsukiko, but seemingly in no one else, especially not Marco. How does Marco's underestimation of Isabel affect the outcome of the competition?
Well, I believe the simplest charms are the most effective, is what she says. So he takes her under his wing when they meet, and he starts teaching her simple charms and magic. Um, and they both have students, really, and both their students become both their sets of students become integral to the survival of the circus. So Isabel has this balance charm that she's been created and protected. And nobody else knew how important that balance charm was until she undoes it and then begins to unravel the circus.
Wow. Yeah.
Kertisen gets murdered, so the heart of the circus is murdered. I mean, his clock still goes on, but the heart of the circus is murdered. Isabel undoes her simple charm that I don't think Marco ever imagined she was capable of even the thought of it.
Mm-mm. He used her in the way that some of the people that helped form the circus and give it money and supplies, that they were also used. They were just tools.
A consumable tool. And then so Isabel and Tsukiko think that they're going to save Celia, and they convince Marco to bind himself to the circus, only to find out that that's not the right solution. So Isabel is integral because she has a charm that's balancing the circus, and then she and Tsukiko think that they've saved the day, when in fact they didn't need to do this. So she's pretty important, but nobody's paying attention to how important she is.
She's like that minor character in any kind of a movie that you overlook until you realize they were the murderer the whole time, but not really. Not in this case.
Of course, and that's one of the things I wanted to listen to more carefully, and maybe you'll know this, Karen. So she takes the hat box out. She unties the ribbon binding her missing magician tarot card and his bowler hat. Was there anything of Celia's in that?
I don't remember. But there must be. If she was trying to balance, she couldn't just have one portion of it. She would have to have something representing each side, I would think, but I don't remember. Yeah, Katie?
I was just looking through other questions. How do you view the morality of the circus in regards to the performers and developers being unknown pawns in Celia and Marco's competition? Do they owe an explanation to their peers about their unwitting involvement?
Yes.
Yeah, because all these people think they're just working in this amazing circus and they don't know that it's a game. They don't know that their whole livelihood. I mean, I think there's that point where Celia's like, all these people are now family, they're close, and they're depending on us keeping them going. What happens to them? This is bigger than just you and me in a competition. But how do you tell someone that their life is part of a game, that they're not living the life that they think, that the world around them outside of the circus is a very different thing than what they think? I mean, if you say that, do you wreck their whole psyche? Do you make things worse by telling them the truth about their lives, or do you just let them go on? I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't have worked, but it would have. I mean, if we're going to speak of morality, like, I think the moral thing to do would have been to let each of the performers have informed consent.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But then you'd have to reveal the game.
Yeah. But I think that part of it was decided outside, not by Marco and Celia. I think that was by the team of people with, look at the characters.
No. That wasn't just, no, this is a creation of Alexander and Prospero.
But all the detail, okay, but they had the outline of the circus.
Yeah,
but I think
didn't know that they were making
its
this.
Competitors are the ones who are adding and building this. If you're in a world building RPG, right? This is kind of like a world like that. The players are building this world bigger than the initial developers.
Yes, but the circus makers, except Alexander, because he's the only one who. So Prospero planted the seed in Chandresh's mind. Alexander went to the meetings, but he didn't give any material participation. Circus makers didn't know what they were making. Like, they knew they were making an extraordinary circus and an extraordinary show.
But they didn't know it was a game.
Because Tara doesn't know what she has wrapped herself up in. And that's why she's asking questions. And that's why Marco is, scrambling the brains of Chandresh by putting memory charms on him all the time, because he doesn't want him to catch on.
I always was thinking also that the circus is kind of like a drug, in that the excitement of it all was like this drug feeding, whether it's the Rivers who live their whole life waiting for the circus to come back and try to, I mean, it's almost like they can only function in the day, the evening, the night of the circus. Everything outside of that, they spend most of their waking consciousness thinking about the next hit, the next drug of when the circus comes. And I thought that as long as Chandresh was, that the prolonged, just like an addict over time starts to deteriorate, their quality of life deteriorates. I think the reality, I think my notes will go back to whether they were a pawn or whether they were manipulated or whether they were part of it. I was thinking that Chandresh was, I'm saying his name completely wrong.
Excuse me.
As the long-term effects were affecting him, that also it's kind of like the drug. The reality of being manipulated was having its effect on him. And he went mad.
Yep. It's interesting, like, everybody's personality got amplified. Like, Chandresh is always drinking. So he lost his mind out. Like, he lost his mind and then he falls into the bottom of a bottle. But you see those things that, like, his foible is his drinking. And he falls deeper into his drinking as the misdirection. And then, like, Tara's undoing is the inability to put her finger on the details. And that's one of the things that the Burgess, no, not Burgess. Is that right? The Burgess sisters.
Burgesses, yeah. What about her sister? Lainey didn't seem to have that problem.
Because she stayed with the circus, I think. I think that's why
right.
she was insulated, because she's, like, in the circus, so she's not
So she stays in the bubble.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that the architect, I can't think of his name right now,
Oh, I can look him up.
that he's fine with everything. He's not going mad. His work is not suffering. He's happy to help both the magicians. He's fine.
One of these questions says,
Ethan Barris.
Mr. Barris. Yes.
yeah. So this question says, Mr. Barris, Frederick Deason, Madame Padva, is that her name?
Padma, the costumer. I loved her stuff.
And Mr. Bailey and Bailey are aware that the circus has made a profound, inexplicable change in their lives, but they each choose not to explore the depths of these changes. Deason states, I prefer to remain unenlightened to better appreciate the dark. Do you agree with this standpoint? What inherent dangers accompany a purposeful ignorance, and what dangers present themselves when ignorance is not chosen? Is one choice safer or better than the other, or are they equally fraught?
No, I think that's an easy answer. That's what we were just exploring. Is like Bailey improves his life.
Mm-hmm. That's true. He reaches out. He does more than what his parent. He doesn't stay on the farm. He reaches out to try to pursue his dream. So for him, that worked out.
And Barris is fine. He's thriving. He's found a way to manage his willful ignorance against its effect on him.
I think Thiessen, his life actually improved because he became famous. He started a movement. A whole group of people, followed him because of his, he went from being a creative, simple clockwork, and then he started applying parts of the circus into his work, and he became world famous, and more people wanted his clocks in his home. So he also profited from his connection to the...
Until he was murdered.
Yeah, well, you can profit until you question, and then...
But the danger is not so much the ignorance as it's the closeness and presence at the actual circus.
Mm-hmm.
Celia tells Bailey that he is, quote, not destined or chosen to be the next proprietor of the circus. He is simply in the right place at the right time and cares enough to do what needs to be done. Sometimes that's enough. In this situation, is it enough? Can the responsibility of maintaining the circus be trusted to just anyone, or despite Celia's assertion, is Bailey truly special?
I think that, and that might answer the earlier question too, of like, is this a manipulated situation or fate? Like maybe this story doesn't believe in fate. Maybe this story believes in being the product of your surroundings, because that's something that Tsukiko says in her like rant against these silly wizard games, is like the teachers, Prospero and Alexander, they're unwilling to acknowledge the effects of kind of like...
It doesn't affect them, so they don't care. It's all part of the game.
Well, they're both having this philosophical argument. Like...
Okay, but how can you just... There's the moral question of how can they justify wrecking so many people's lives just for their amusement?
Yeah. So they're having this philosophical exploration that's spanning centuries, perhaps, and destroying lives. and Tsukiko is like, they don't understand the effects of this experience on... So it's not like because she falls in love with her competitor as well.
That's true.
And that's the effect of the situation. So like, perhaps Bailey is not special, but he, like all of us, like we're all exposed to wondrous things.
But he is special because he's the only one that pursued to the point, who left everything really to be part of this. And he was important because he's the only one that was almost fated to be the caretaker, the future caretaker. And then how lucky would he have to be to have the runaway and happen to just run into two people with money who can take him in and take him along the road and get him, who become a vehicle to get him to the circus, because he was
asks itself again, was that fate? It must have
I
been.
think it had to be fate because no one is that lucky.
But the revelers were near the circus, and it is their nature to bring others into the fold. So is that fate or right place, right time again? Because that's the nature of the revelers.
Well, it's the nature of some rivers. I think, because I think Elizabeth was talking about, like, even talking about that a little bit. Was it? No, it wasn't Elizabeth. It was Lorena. Lorena, who was with Victor. Oh, trying to make my see my point. Because I don't know that. I mean, there was other river. I'm sure they weren't the only rivers, but those were the only rivers that chose to bring him along.
The other thing about like the effects of the circus on people, and is it fate or is it effect? Like, oh goodness, where did it go? Never mind. I don't have the other thing.
So I have one last question here that might be a good way to like wrap it up.
Okay.
It says at the closing of the novel, we're left to believe that the circus is still traveling. Bailey's business card provides an email address as his contact information. How do you think the circus would fare over time? Would the circus need to evolve to suit each generation, or is it distinctive enough to transcend time?
I think it is distinctive enough. I like the idea that it has continued on to present time. There, I presume with the email address that is the author's message to us, and that's where I put my finger on it being the third timeline.
In the now.
It's interesting because we live in such a like marvelous time where people are nonplussed by the marvels.
Yeah.
So that's a fair and interesting question. Like, would the circus evolve in such a way that it could keep its mystery and keep its wonder?
I think the circus is so varied because even at its time, there's so many different tents that offer different things. I think some tents would evolve to include newer, fresher, more modern interests, but still, I don't know, the whole mystery, think about the mystery of being able to have to be at a circus at midnight, to be before midnight to even be there. And the hours, the mystery alone, I think would be intriguing.
I think it's interesting to think about because in modern times, something magical can happen, like a monolith can appear in the desert and you automatically believe it's a marketing stunt. So like this could pop up somewhere near your town and you'd be like, well, whose marketing stunt is this,
Yeah.
Aliens.
What?
Aliens.
Yeah, aliens. Like
Alien circus.
I don't know if people are more not wary, but like aware, I guess, of stunts like that these days than they probably were, because things go viral in the present time and age where they couldn't in the past, just due to like that's just not the way that news would travel. So I don't know.
No, but maybe their viral would just look different.
Or is this even viral? Like it is like an underground almost. Like it's
I don't know. You're not getting you're not getting flash mobs at the night circus.
But you might in the present, in 2020.
Oh, that's true. Because the nature of how a flash mob is just like really
How
fast.
information travels, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've reached the end of my questions, so if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, this is your time, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think we could go around. Any other good books you've been reading this month?
Oh, all of those are on my Kindle. You say something while I look up my Amazon, look it up on Amazon.
Like a strange experience going on while I was reading this, because I had two books I wanted to read in October. And one is the actual novel that like Lovecraft Country, which I lent to my son, and so that got sidelined. Maybe next October I'll get to it back. And then the other one was Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, which is also about a mysterious circus that just appears in the dead of night.
Oh.
And it's a magical, strange circus, only it is completely
I never knew that.
It's
so that's fun.
Sinister. And it's very good, but it's weird to be reading 2 books at the same time about mysterious circuses.
That sounds
okay.
confusing.
That's why I think there's this one thing that happened, and I don't know if it was in these books or maybe it was even in like a show I watched this. But I really like Ray Bradbury.
Hmm.
I like his Halloweeny books anyway. Those are the ones I've really read. Because Fahrenheit 451 was assigned, and I never read any of the assigned books.
Yeah, same. I have been on a kick of like trying to watch a movie every night. In like, because this is December, so I've been trying to watch a Christmas movie every night, which means I don't have a lot of time in the evening, which is when I normally would read. So I haven't really read anything, except that I'm trying to also keep up with my other book club where we're reading Little Women. So I have 3 chapters a week that I need to keep up with that book. So I'm still working on Little Women.
Good. It's a
Plug it in my phone so I don't die. I started listening to a podcast, but there's a book that's been made off the podcast called Alice Isn't Dead. And it's kind of creepy, spooky, but not. It's kind of done in the voice.
This.
Huh?
Go ahead, finish.
Okay.
I heard about it
It's-
recently though.
It's a no, I plugged in, so we're good. It's a truck driver, and she thinks her wife is dead. Only she realizes that as she goes place to place and she hears these things in the news about murders and weird bad things that are happening, that her wife is in the crowd at each one of these things that are happening. And so she's searching for her, and she's talking to herself, kind of like breaker, you know. Some of the story breaks up a little bit. It's narrated by the podcast, and the audiobook are narrated by Jessica Nicole, which if you were a fan of Fringe and a lot of other shows, she was Agent Farnsworth. And I follow her on Instagram. Super creative person. She like makes everything crafty, so she's like all like kind of like us.
Nice.
But no, it's interesting how she talks about it. It's by Joseph Fink. And there's another series also from the podcast called Welcome to Night Vale, so that are kind of that small town criminal, but also with aliens kind of thing.
Welcome to Night Vale is like a groundbreaking podcast. I've never listened to it, but I've heard like people who love it.
So good. It is so good.
Yeah. I think what I thought you were going to talk about is I think I heard a podcaster share that they were on a true crime podcast, and they shared the story of someone who was murdered, and then that person emailed them later and said, I was not murdered.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated.
I remember the full context of that.
I don't know.
And also A Starless Sea, because you got me stuck on another Erin Morgenstern.
So you are reading that, so I'm going to take it out of my...
I am almost done. It's so good.
I can listen to it, so that's great. Good news.
Yeah.
But I'll take it on my future selections.
Well, I think this means that it's Karen's turn to pick our next book. So what are we going to read next?
I went through a couple of lists, and I saw that there is a list that came out last year of mini books by 6 different authors. And I thought those are great because they're only an hour each, but they're only on Amazon. But I took the list of those authors and went searching in their work. And let me pull up. So what we're going to read next is A Gentleman in Moscow, a novel. It's called a novel by Amor, Towles. And basically a guy is sentenced as a criminal, and he's free to go as long as he never leaves the hotel for 30 years. And all the things that there's stuff that happens to him.
That's
Murders, mystery, thriller. So A Gentleman in Moscow. Moscow.
And is that possibly is that man's real name? Amor Towles? Like you hear
no, it's not Batman. This is a real author's name.
Is that really his name?
Yeah.
Why? Don't you hear it?
No.
Amor Towles?
No. Immortal?
Oh,
would be
I'm
immortal.
just curious.
Karen, you said that it was inspired by like mini books, so I looked up the length of this book. It's 17 hours long.
No. Okay,
Karen.
this one. Oh, no. This was not the one that was mini books. The reason I
No, I
didn't do
know,
the
but
mini books.
it made me think maybe that it would be a shorter book.
Oh no, sorry.
18
I
hours
would have picked the other one that was called. Hold on. Let me go to my. It's called Forward, the Forward collection, but they're only available on Kindle, and I didn't know how many people.
Yeah.
Now, if y'all are okay, I could change my book selection and make it really, really fast.
No,
but
it's fine. My turn
6
will be
hours,
coming up.
17 is only almost 3 times as long. I mean,
It's fine.
we got a month.
52 minutes.
You know what? We read Grapes of Wrath and that was 21 hours. I just looked, so it's fine.
Okay. And I promise never to be Grapes of Wrath long ever. So
When it's my turn to pick, I will take that into account and we'll have like a 3 or 4 hour long book. But that's fine because January is a much less busy month. So
yeah. So if you look up Forward on Amazon, actually they're free. There's 6 books and they're each about a 1 hour read. So if you're listening to it, it's going to be even faster.
nice.
But they have N.K. Jemisin, Blake Crouch, the gal who brought you the Divergent series.
Those on Audible because that's an Amazon property.
It's an Amazon. Yep. I don't know if the Amazon part is free, but yeah, I was like, because I'm a real fan of Blake Crouch, and there's another one. It's like all these people that I've read before are all collected together, and I thought that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So, the guy who wrote The Martian that they made a movie out of, he's one of them. So.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
All right then.
Cool. So,
Well,
A Gentleman in Moscow.
A Gentleman in Moscow. All right.
Alrighty.
Well, then we will see you in a month for that book.
All right.
Yay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy holidays.